Hello beautiful YouTube individuals and Transformers enthusiasts out there, this is your boy RBG, aka The Random Black Gamer, and welcome to my new video segment, Transformers History. Unbeknownst to my core audience, I'm a huge fan of the Transformers franchise, and I decided to take a huge leap of faith to give my thoughts on the series and further explore the lore. So if you're a Transformers fan or you just like what you see, click the like or dislike button and subscribe and share for more. It really helps me out and it encourages me to do more videos for my viewers because you guys are awesome. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. So today we're going to be delving into the movie universe, aka the Bayformers. The dreadful Bayformers. Yeah, I'm well aware that Bayformers warrant a lot of hate, most of it reasonable hate, but I'm here to somewhat remediate your inner nerd fury and inform you on some of the awesome details behind this specific lore. This means no pointless explosions, no pointless name slapping on C-lister robots we won't see in later sequels, and no pointless humans with force-fed humor. Also, just a heads up, if you haven't seen the movies or read the comic book material used in this video, it will somewhat be spoilerish, so don't say I didn't warn you. In this episode of Transformers History, we're kicking things off with the leader of the Autobots, Optimus Prime. He's the warrior who stands for freedom, the Big Bot, the Big Buddha, aka Robo-Jesus. Similar to his earlier renditions such as the G1 Optimus, the movie universe's Prime is depicted as a strong moral character who has excellent leadership and sound decision-making skills and possesses brilliant military tactics and powerful martial arts. Judging from all the iterations I've seen, I'd have to say that this is probably the most emotionally charged Optimus we bear witness to. At the start of the trilogy, he's a somewhat calm and collective Autobot, but later down the line, he becomes more angrier and more bloodthirsty as the series progresses.
You waste of metal. You die. I'll kill you.
Some say this somewhat hurts the core essence of what he stands for, but I kinda see it as a more realistic approach. Think of it as a war veteran who's constantly thrust into battle when he thinks he's getting a break for a change. He goes through so much shit, so even if he bears a spark instead of a soul, he's still a being with emotions. But all of that aside, Optimus Prime still has a strong sense of honor and justice, being dedicated to building a peaceful and mutual beneficial coexistence with humans and the protection of life and liberty of all sentient species. Let's take a look at his origins leading up to the events of the films. For my references, I'll be using the IDW comics such as the Transformers Foundation and the Transformers Defiance issues, which are part of the Revenge of the Fallen arc. And I'll also be using the Transformers movie prequel issues to further explore some of the smaller details. Optimus was the last surviving descendant of the Primes. He would spend his early years as an orphan to keep his true identity a secret and hidden away from the evil of the Fallen. He grew up with no knowledge of who he was and was eventually found by Sentinel Prime, who claimed to be a surviving descendant from the Great Primus himself. Sentinel would take Optimus under his tutelage, where he would work with young warriors by the names of Megatron and Elita 1 to restore balance to Cybertron, a metal planet that had been starved of all its energon. Their mission was to locate the legendary Allspark, a powerful energy source that wields the ability to create worlds and fill them with life. Optimus would go on to forge a strong bond with Megatron, sometimes labeling themselves as brothers. Megatron would take on a more hands-on warrior approach to situations, while Optimus would take on a more solution-oriented role. The two of them always pushed each other to the height of their abilities, according to Sentinel, and shared the dream of building a more united world of Cybertron, which was very rare at the time. For eons, the Transformers gathered into tribes and battled over the remaining traces of life-sustaining energy. They would succeed on their mission and restore life back to Cybertron, unifying the planet once more, but the violent and militant tribe known as the Thetacons would go on to reject the peace offering. The Thetacons executed a surprise attack on Sentinel Prime's camp to seize the retrieved Allspark. Optimus and Megatron both led their squadrons to keep them at bay and buy time for Sentinel to utilize the cube's power. It was there that Optimus would meet Thetacon's high-ranking soldier and weapons specialist Ironhide. Ironhide would fight with all his might, insisting to Optimus that what Sentinel Prime was trying to do was suicidal, and it could wipe out Cybertron. but he would be proven wrong. Re-energized by a star harnessed by the science of Wheeljack, the Allspark restored life and energy to Cybertron, proving Sentinel Prime was right all along. The Thedicons laid down their arms. Ironhide didn't understand what the Allspark was going to be used for if not subjugation, and Optimus informed him that it would be used to spread freedom across Cybertron. Ironhide would then bow down to Optimus, saying that his tribe was wrong, and that Optimus Prime's master was right. The cube is life. But Optimus would insist that Ironhide stand up, stating that Sentinel Prime is no one's master, and that no Transformer will ever be forced to bow down to another. Megatron, on the other hand, disagreed, stating that the war between tribes would have been over long ago had they have done what was necessary and killed the Thedicons. Optimus then stood up for the tribe, telling Megatron that he shouldn't base his judgment on ancient superstitions and prejudices, implying that they were witnessing the dawn of a new era and that all Cybertronians should work together to build a better future. Seeing how quickly Optimus took control and diffused the situation made Sentinel Prime take notice to him. Even though Sentinel had succeeded in unifying the planet, he grew old and weary and had no desire to lead the new, united populace. At last, he revealed to Optimus the secret of his heritage and that he, as Optimus Prime, should be the successor and lead the Autobots. Optimus was unsure of what was being told to him, implying that he'd always believed the Primes to be a myth, but in his early age, Sentinel had taught him to weigh the facts and look for evidence. He felt as if Megatron should have had the position, since he always insisted of the Prime's existence. Optimus would turn down the role, proposing instead that he investigate Cybertron's history in an attempt to bring some of the good the Primes created back to the world. While this conversation went on, Optimus and Sentinel had no idea that Megatron had been eavesdropping. Hearing this, Megatron would become consumed with anger and jealousy at the knowledge that he was Sentinel's second choice, causing him to lose all respect for Optimus because he had turned down an incredible birthright. Sentinel redrew his plans for Cybertron, having Optimus lead the Archaeological Science Division while placing Megatron in charge of the Defense Forces. They were both able to govern Cybertron together for 2 generations, with their 2 opposite personalities creating balance. As I mentioned earlier, Optimus was fair and reasonable, while Megatron was more firm and battle-tested. I think this information really entails on the dispute between Optimus and Megatron in the first movie, and it really shows the viewers why Megatron was so superior at fighting. It always seemed like Optimus held back his aggression and still probably believed he could reforge his brotherhood with Megatron. It also answers the question that most purists had when Optimus said,
"You left me no choice, brother."
After Megatron's defeat. They were never really brothers in the other Transformers lore, but although they're not biological brothers in this rendition, they were still brothers in arms. Later in years after the Great Cybertron Union, Megatron would soon take on a leadership role over his defense squad and the science division after intimidating Optimus into giving up supreme power in defense of their planets. He would call out Optimus for questioning his orders to attack the Malcontent tribe for opposing the order, saying things as, "I thought you weren't a warrior anymore. If I'm wrong, stop me." Which in response, Optimus backed down and simply stayed in his lane as a scientist. Around 10,000 BC, Optimus supervised an investigation into abnormal depth readings received near the Simmer Temple. This led to the discovery of multiple broken artifacts that were found to be somehow linked to the dynasty of the Primes and the Allspark. Megatron took interest in the discoveries and came with Optimus to the excavation site just when the first whole artifact was unearthed. Optimus and Megatron clashed over several issues. All Megatron cared about was whether the site contained power similar to the Allspark, while Optimus insisted on taking things slowly with the reminder that it was his division who was in charge of the proceedings. As they argued about what to do with the artifact, Cybertron came under attack by aliens from the Eshems Nebula. Megatron ordered the artifact to be brought to his quarters in Trypticon and took off to lead the defense force into battle. After the Eshems Nebula's attack was repelled by the defense force, Optimus ordered his science teams to help the remaining survivors of the attack, while he went on to confer with Megatron. And before we go any further, guys, I just want to say that the relic that Optimus finds is a tomb that consists of the Fallen Prime, and he takes it back to Megatron, and somehow Megatron awakes it and the Fallen persuades him to turn against the Autobots and wage war. But I don't want to delve too deep into that particular element because this is about Optimus Prime. You can expect more details on that in Megatron's origin story. To make a long story short, Megatron becomes power hungry and ends up going batshit insane. But anyways, Optimus goes to talk to Megatron regarding the relic, only to nearly come to blows with him after he demands that Optimus send his science division to war against the aliens. Optimus would refuse, stating that his team should only do what they're specialized for, and that it went against Sentinel Prime's vision. Megatron, being the boss with the metallic cojones, slams Optimus like a useless Intel CPU, and tells Optimus that it's time for a change. He then orders his defense force to begin the war against the Esheim's Nebula. Fearing that Megatron sought to divide Cybertron, Optimus called a meeting of the Science Division and appealed to all those who served under him not to join Megatron on his crusade, asking them instead to stay by his side and continue on their own mission of peace and research. This is where we really begin to see Optimus showcase the classical elements of who he is. He was able to stand front and center and take charge and motivate Transformers who weren't sure of the fate in the midst of this rift between the science team and Megatron's defenses. It also shows how he's willing to go up against those higher forces if he feels like further casualties need to be prevented. With the aid of his closest friends, Prowl and Jazz, Optimus broke into Megatron's quarter in search of some clues to his brother-in-arm's sudden compulsion towards war. But he only had time to observe that the relic had somehow been restored to pristine condition before he was forced to leave to avoid detection. Returning to the Science Division headquarters, Optimus was greeted with a stunning discovery. Ratchet, Elita 1, and RC had uncovered other ancient artifacts, each which bore a symbol that matched one on Optimus's helmet, a symbol that proved that Optimus was indeed a descendant of the dynasty of the Primes. Now, depending on which comic book you read out of the Defiance series and the Foundation series, this somewhat differs based on the visuals. In the Defiance issue, Optimus is supposedly the only Transformer to bear the Autobot crest on his helmet, which is said to be the symbol of the Primes. But in the Foundation comics, he bears what you call the cyberglyphic symbol of the Primes. I prefer the cyberglyphic symbol over the Autobot crest because it just has that majestic feel to it, but I do like that they hint that the Autobot symbol was influenced after Optimus Prime and his ancestors. It always did look like it resembled Optimus's face in a way, but that's just my opinion. With the symbol on his helmet being fully discovered, his colleagues would go on to call him by his full name, Optimus Prime, but Optimus insisted that they refrain from calling him as such, insisting that it has to be some sort of mistake and that it could mean that he's some sort of records clerk, but he would come to embrace it. Prime went with RC and Ratchet to the excavation site, where they discussed the ramifications of this new information, only for the group to be apprehended for treason by an unwilling Prowl, forced to do so under the orders of Megatron. This turned out to be a trap. However, while they were being escorted to the city of Metro Titan, Megatron's forces ambushed them with the intent to kill. Optimus bested Starscream and collapsed Metro Titan on top of the attackers. Then he raced back to the embattled excavation site to usher Sentinel Prime and Wheeljack to safety. Optimus informed Sentinel of the marking on his head that proved his mentor had been right all along. Now he was Optimus Prime. Sentinel mentioned that it had always been Optimus's nature to need unassailable facts in order to accept the truth. Later that day, in the city of Trypticon, Megatron would rally the remainder of his defense force, stating that peace only brought Cybertron attacks from outsiders, and even their own people. He went on to imply that he would establish his own movement, his own order, the Decepticons. Anyone who pledged allegiance and donned the title would be spared, while those who stood against the movement were labeled traitors and were to be destroyed. All those loyal to Optimus regrouped at Berthov, where Optimus was recognized as the leader of the group, with Prowl serving as his lieutenant. Captain Ironhide, a former member of the Decepticons, informed Optimus of the huge starship Nemesis that Megatron was building. As a counterplay, Optimus Prime began working towards equipping his own side with similar vessels. Though the Autobots found themselves at an advantage when the Nemesis left Cybertron, it was then and there that the true war finally broke out between Optimus and Megatron's forces. The war raged for thousands of years with no end in sight until Sentinel came up with a solution, a torch that could bring the conflict to an end without the mass murder of the Decepticons. Contact with the Allspark was required to activate it, so the Autobots made to Sempher Temple, where Optimus held off Megatron so that Elita 1 could activate the torch and deliver it to Sentinel. Sentinel loaded the torch aboard the Autobot ship, the Ark, but to Optimus and Megatron's disbelief, Starscream blew the ship out of nowhere. Consumed with grief and rage at the apparent death of his mentor, Optimus ordered Wheeljack to use the second remaining Ark to transport the Allspark away, then declared that he would be going on a suicide mission to stop Megatron. For eons, Optimus questioned his brother's mindset, wondering if power corrupted him. In the back of his mind, he was finally convinced by Megatron's vision of the future. In the end, one shall stand and one shall fall. He would do whatever it takes to kill Megatron. Optimus would be accompanied by his love interest Elita 1 and second in command Ironhide on his way to Megatron's citadel. With his dual energon swords, he tirelessly cut down endless waves of Decepticons with fire in his optics. Although the cold, corrosive Cybertronian rain melted away at his metal skin and circuitry, he pressed forward, unfazed by the pain. Optimus demanded Megatron to face him, but the Decepticon leader responded by dropping the smelting pot on him. Ironhide saved Prime from the fiery rain, and Optimus then entered Megatron's chamber alone to discover his former allies surrounded by hungry hatchlings, confident that Optimus was too weak and wouldn't think to harm the infants to get to him. Megatron admitted to Optimus that he was there when Sentinel told him of his destiny, saying that Optimus never had what it takes to accept that kind of responsibility. With the young and hungry hatchlings surrounding him, Megatron began mutilating the already weakened and battered Optimus, taunting him and whispering in his receptor that he is weak and that one must sacrifice to win. Like the badass Robo-Jesus he is, Optimus Prime replied, "I agree," and guts Megatron with his energy sword and ordered Wheeljack to remove the Allspark from his temple, plunging Cybertron into pure darkness. Optimus escaped, leaving Megatron to fend off his ravenous hatchlings and joined Ironhide in fending off Starscream and Shockwave. Returning to oversee the Allspark's transportation, Optimus recognized that the drastic actions he had taken had forever fractured his relationship with Elita 1 and observed he still had a long way to go to being a great leader. To put the Allspark's power beyond Megatron's reach, Optimus Prime made preparations to send it off planet. Allowing word to reach the Decepticons that the cube was being held at Sempher, Prime and the main forces of the Autobots occupied their enemies in battle, while a small team led by Bumblebee guarded the Allspark's true hiding place, Tiger Pax. The cube was launched into space, and Megatron immediately gave chase. Optimus was very regretful of his decision, feeling that in buying the Autobots some time in the war, he had sentenced their world to death. But Prowl insisted that he had made the right choice, and that he had turned death into a fighting chance to live. Encouraged by Prowl's words, Prime and his Autobots took off after the Allspark and Megatron aboard the Ark, hopeful that they could defeat the Decepticon leader while he was alone, and bring the cube back to heal their homeworld. And that's pretty much it, guys. That pretty much sums up the events leading up to the movies pertaining to your favorite big bot, Optimus Prime. If you've been following the films, you pretty much know the rest of the story leading up to the Age of Extinction. Now, of course, there are some comics that fill in the gaps between each sequel, so if you're interested in knowing what happened in between each film and what happened to the other Transformers that seamlessly disappeared with no real explanation, let me know in the comment section below. All in all, I really enjoyed doing this video. Although I have a lot of love and hate for this series, I still come to appreciate what they did with the IDW further expounding upon the unanswered questions. I really do like this version of Optimus, even though he does kind of break that essence of who he truly is and goes off the deep end. Whether Transformer purists like him or not, this version of Optimus Prime gave the original voice actor Peter Cullen a chance to breathe familiar life into the character after not voicing him for over 18 years. And since then, he's been game to voice the Red and Blue Commander. It's also worth mentioning that this particular version of Optimus and the movie universe in general would go on to inspire the visual art style for the critically acclaimed series Transformers Prime. So even though you may hate this version of Robo Jesus, you gotta give him credit for giving future series that spark of inspiration, pun intended. But that's pretty much it, you guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. I put a lot of effort into making this video. For the next episode, we'll be exploring the backstory of the Decepticon Savage, the Metallic Baphomet, the Big Booty Daddy, Megatron, aka MBE1, because
that's what we call it.
Man, I hate that guy. And don't worry guys, I'm not just gonna tackle the Bay film lore. As mentioned earlier, I'm gonna be covering many iterations of Transformers. So follow me at Random Black Gamer on Twitter and send requests on Transformers that you want to hear about. As always, I ask that you like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And to get a confirmation that you've watched this episode all the way through, follow your comment up with a hashtag #TellAllGamersAre1. But anyways, this is your boy RBG signing out on another video. See you guys on the next episode. Peace out.